y'all. Here today to talk about meditation tips. So if we've been meditating for any period of time, I think it makes sense to start to talk about some of these a little bit more advanced concepts and nuances because we want to get the most out of what we're doing. So, and I want to make a big plug for that. We want to get the most out of this meditation session that we're doing, all right? It's really easy to come in and know that this is beneficial for us and know that we need to get through a certain period of time to meditate, whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And it's really easy to sit down and hit the timer and kind of go through the motions, and you're kind of doing it, and you hyper focus, but then you notice yourself thinking a little bit, but then your background thinking about something the whole time before you know the timer's up. You kind of feel good about yourself because you did it, but it wasn't really that productive, okay? And I'm not saying there's not any benefit that comes from that, but if we're going to spend the time meditating, we need to get the most out of it that we can. So if I'm looking to get that enhanced focus and this ability to be present and learn cultivate this skill and these tools to make myself come more present, and cultivate this capacity to notice my critical mind and being critical of anything and everything else and being triggered and offended by things so easy and always thinking worst case scenarios and all the added thinking that goes along with it. If I really want to mitigate that and be able to notice that and break it up and have more happiness in my life, then I have to treat this meditation session with reverence and deliberateness. I want to get the most out of it. Just like when I go into the gym for my hour of power here, I'm not there to do anything else. I'm there to give it my all, because I know that the more intense I am there, the better the adaptation response. The more deliberate we can be with our mental training session, the meditation session, the more that we're going to get out of it. And I promise you that if you have this attitude alone with it, that you're going to see tremendous results come very, very fast from all this. All right? But in the context of this, understanding we want to be very deliberate with it when we come into our meditation session. Remember, it helps to have this ritualistic place that feels really good, because to the unconscious mind, symbols and rituals and good luck numbers and just whatever you like to do to spruce your place up, those are really beneficial things, okay? Ideally, I like for it to be outside because it feels way more open, but of course you can do this anywhere, anytime, but it's really beneficial to have a nice spot. And when you come in, that's another reason that it's very beneficial to sit with good posture. If I sit with good posture, I'm treating this very deliberately, very formally, but then also that's helping with my alertness, okay? And then when we begin, we want to have this attitude of, I'm beginning, I'm starting this. Again, I could easily hit the timer and just kind of start to listen, but if I have this conversation with myself, and it could be internal dialogue, but if you start and you say, I'm starting now, and I'm really going to make an effort to notice my thinking and come back to my focus each and every time. If you can have that conversation with yourself every time you transition from one focus to the next, I promise you, it's like you make yourself want to be like this hawk. You're really watching and paying attention, and you really cultivate the skill, okay? So having a conversation with yourself before starting each focus is going to be extremely beneficial. Now I'm beginning. Now I'm really going to focus on listening. I'm really going to focus on noticing my thinking and coming back. At the same time, we're being completely easy about the whole thing. So when we are thinking, when we do notice ourselves lost in thought or whatever, it's not that we did anything right or wrong. We just want to notice it and then simply come back to the focus. And as soon as you come back to the focus, you'll notice some space created. Okay? But we do want to have that deliberateness. And then some tips and things as we're going through the process. Okay? First of all, I would recommend putting your phone behind you. Okay? So if I have my phone out here in front of me, it's way too easy for me to want to look down at it and see how much time I have left, okay? And maybe your urge to look down, maybe you can catch that, and that would be a really good, practice moment, is to catch your urge to want to look at your phone, and then whether you do or don't doesn't matter, but you could refrain from looking at it, and that would be a good practice moment. Then you just come back to your focus, whatever it is. But I would definitely put the phone behind you, and then once you start it, don't mess with it. You're there. You're there for that time, and that's all there is to it, right? You're going to have all kinds of instantaneous, I call it instantaneous rationalizations, to want to stop it and cut it short, and just I'm good, I've done enough, or whatever happens. This used to happen to me a lot in the beginning, but I notice it so much now, it just doesn't happen. But you have these instantaneous rationalizations to stop, to cut it short, to get going on with your day or something like that. Well, those are thoughts. That instantaneous rationalization, your desire to move, your urge to move and do something about it, that is a thought. You can catch that and then choose to come back to your focus, whatever it is. And notice when you come back to your focus, then that thing goes away. That urge to do that goes away, okay? We want to notice irritation. Okay, so a really good example is if I'm sitting here and it's nice and peaceful and quiet, and then all of a sudden I hear a car alarm going off. And the car alarm, causes me to get irritated. Well, first of all, where did the irritation come from? It wasn't a premeditated irritation. I didn't think about being irritated. It just happened, right? But what happens is I can stay irritated and dwell on that and just let that irritation continue to be with me. And so what we want to notice is our tendency to be irritated. So as soon as we notice irritation, it's the same thing as a thought. It's like you simply treat it as a thought, you acknowledge it, and you come back to your focus. And notice when you choose to come back to your focus, the irritation goes away, okay? As a really good example, there's a time not too long ago, we were sitting here meditating in this little, I don't know what you call this, foray or something like that. And the lawn guys come in here, and they came in this area that we were in, and they started up all their stuff. It was me and two other people sitting here having our little morning priming and practice session, and the guys started up their leaf blowers and all that stuff. And of course, my first thought was, "Are you kidding me? How could they be doing this?" And I started that whole trail of thinking. And I noticed it, and we all chose to come back to our focus. And I can't remember what it was at the time. I'm sure it was probably listening at first. And so we could choose to listen to the lawn blower or leaf blower thing and use that as a focus. And all of a sudden, the irritation goes away, Or we can choose to feel the body in the context of the chaos, and the irritation goes away. Maybe it comes back, but then you notice it, and you come back to feeling the body, or you come back to your breath or whatever. And it was actually a really great meditation session. We went in there, and it was just like, we were sitting out here. It was like something that we could have filmed in a movie. Wind and leaves blowing around, these guys walking around and trimming stuff and picking up stuff off the ground, and we're just sitting there just like stoics, like it was pretty cool. So notice your tendency to get irritated, okay? Irritation is just a thought. You can come back to your focus, and it goes away. Notice your tendency to fidget. This is a really big thing with me. I would sit there, and I just have this thing where I always just like to wiggle my toe a little bit, And then I noticed that at some point, and I was like, okay, I have to be aware of that, And again, fidgeting, it's not that it's right or wrong, but we want to get into this point of this really conscious participation in the whole process. And notice this, right? So if I have a tendency to itch or scratch or move or adjust, it's not that those things are right or wrong, but I want to start looking for the urge or the tendency to do it and have some conscious participation in it, right? So if I'm sitting here and maybe I have an urge to move for some reason, to adjust. Maybe I'm uncomfortable. I want to be present with that urge or that desire. And then if I want to move, I can. That's perfectly fine. I want to notice my urge to itch something, like if a fly's on me or an ant or something like that. Like instead of just going for it, I could make the conscious decision to go for it, okay? So the urge to fidget or fidgeting in general, moving, changing your posture, it's not that those things are bad or wrong. We just want to have a conscious awareness and participation in it, because every one of those things is a training moment. Every one of those. If I notice my urge to do any one of those things and I choose to come back to my focus, I just have strengthened my capacity to come back to my focus, Another one that's really big is having conversations with yourself, noticing conversations with yourself. That's when the thinking can get really sneaky. Right? It's a little bit more, I guess, easier, obvious to notice images and some really clear sentences and thoughts about something, or maybe you notice yourself off in a soap opera or drama or whatever. But sometimes when you're having a conversation with yourself, that's really hard to detect, especially like with me in my situation. I'm always having a conversation with myself about what I'm doing because I'm always thinking about teaching it to someone else. And so it's really hard to pick up on that. But at some point, if you really have that intention to be like an eagle watching things, you're going to notice that. And as soon as you notice it, again, all you do is come back to your focus, okay? You want to notice yourself being too relaxed. So a lot of times you start, especially if we're getting into a 15-minute plus meditation, you start to slouch, you start to notice your posture, and then of course your focus starts to drift a little bit. So I always like to remind myself, good posture, shoulders pinched back, head is tall, and if I notice myself not there, then I would make myself get back into a very deliberate posture, and that kind of perks things up and makes you a little bit more focused, all right? I would say look for your tendency to want to take notes. So a lot of us are going to have a journal out. I like to have my little envisioning material out here sometimes, and I definitely have a pen with me. And sometimes it's really easy to rationalize taking a note because you just thought of something, right? Well, the problem with that is you start to rationalize a lot of thinking, because now this turns into not a meditation session, but like a brainstorming session or something. You have another idea and you write it down, you have another idea. So you have to look for your tendency to want to write those things down. You're going to remember, it's going to come back up later. If you allow yourself to do that, I'm not saying don't ever do it, but I'm thinking like you probably more than likely don't ever want to do it, because the more that you do it, the more you strengthen your habit to do it and rationalization to do it. Okay, and then we don't want to let meditation turn into visualization. Okay, so we don't want to start thinking about what we want to be, how we want to be, what we want in life, and that is very, very important to do for sure. But that is not what meditation is about. Meditation is nitty-gritty, sitting. You could even think it's boring. I mean, it's not good or bad or anything. It is what it is, but it's a nitty-gritty, sitting, timed, having a focus. Notice your thinking coming back to your focus, okay? So I think that is all the tips that I wanted to share with y'all today. I'm interested to hear your feedback. Let me know how things are going.